the apartheid
So what would you like to see happen, Hassan?
Do you not understand the English language?
What's going on, everybody? I hope everyone's having a fantastic evening, fantastic afternoon, fantastic evening, no matter where you are in the world. I'm Hassan Piker, and this is the Awesome Hour broadcast coming to you live from sunny California, Los Angeles, folks. We're live and alive, and I hope all the boys, girls, and MBs are having a fantastic one because today's a beautiful day. Today's a wonderful day. Kaya's back. That's right. Today is Tuesday, folks. It's freaking Tuesday, lads. It's Tuesday news day. I'm Hassan Piker, and I hope everyone's having a great one. I know I certainly am. This is part of the broadcast where I tell you about my personal news, about what's going on in the world of Hassan Piker in between the time period where I press the stop streaming button and pressed the start streaming button. So help me God. Now, there's been a lot of articles written about your boy getting detained by the Department of Homeland Security. So we'll obviously be talking about that a little bit as well. I'm locked up. They won't let me out. Type shit. Wait, this is my favorite photo of you. What the hell? Progressive influencer tells of detention at U.S. airport. There ain't no way. Hassan Piker picture with Playboy bunnies at an event in Washington in 2018 says he was interrogated about his political views. That's hilarious, dude. That's a fantastic photo. Your detention story seriously blew up. Yeah, I don't know what they were thinking. Of course it was going to blow up. You're detaining one of the largest political dissenting voices in North America. That's gonna fucking be a problem for a lot of people. Like, no shit. How many journalists hit you up for this story? Every single one. Virtually every single journalist in the history of journalism. Like, it is crazy. Is a story that's completely out of control. The worst people you know are either celebrating or downplaying your detention. Love to see their true colors. Yeah, it's the least interesting thing that has taken place, which is half of my haters saying that it didn't happen and it's not real, even though the Department of Homeland Security confirmed that it happened, and the other half saying it didn't go far enough. Sometimes people are saying it didn't happen, but if it did, it was good, and it shouldn't. It should have been even harder. Did you think it would have blown up like this? I mean, I assumed that it would probably get a lot of media coverage because, like, it's an ongoing story and it's like a boiling point. A lot of people covered my ICE detention, but my favorite title actually came from New York Post, the dish rag of all dish rags. Okay. New York Post, that is that every time I get like any sort of positive coverage, will immediately write articles about how I'm a terrorist that needs to be killed or whatever. They got on and they hit one of the funniest bars on this, and I can't even deny it. Liberal loudmouth streamer Hassan Piker claims he was detained by U.S. immigration officials. I respect it. I respect that. Game recognized game. They hit me hard where it hurts, calling me liberal, which I think is not great. German conservative media posted something that's surprisingly not ass. That is surprising. That's a horrible photo of me. U.S. journalist detained. They hit me with a loudmouth. I am a loudmouth, and I respect being called that, but I do not respect being called a liberal. I don't appreciate that. And for him, but there's a whole cadre of good government and activist law folks who would be extremely relieved to hear you roundly disclaim the wisdom of talking to CBP today. I already mentioned that in my coverage. I was like, the only reason why I did this was because I wanted to investigate it further, and I wanted to see where this would go. There was a red line for me, which was like if they wanted to engage in some sort of unlawful search and seizure of my property, like it was a fact-finding mission for me, using my privilege that I have. As a black chatter, you talking to cops was killing me, bro. Dude, oh my God. Okay, chatters. As I mentioned yesterday, and I guess I will have to repeat it over and over again, you shouldn't do this. The reason why I did this is because I have a shit ton of privilege. I wanted to investigate what this inquiry was going to look like. I am wealthy enough to be sheltered from additional scrutiny. I am a public figure. If this were to happen to you in a situation like this, as it's happened to many Americans so far that have come into the country, there wouldn't be 7,000 international articles written about it. The reason why I took advantage of the privilege that I have, being a public person, and also on top of that, having enough money to potentially overcome any sort of serious scrutiny from the government, and access to groups like the ACLU and numerous other First Amendment defending like civil rights organizations with lawyers, used this as an opportunity to try to figure out exactly what was going on with this inquiry process. And I stressed this over and over again yesterday, which is to not let you do this. I told you, you shouldn't do this. What is this?
So unless you live under a rock, you are probably aware of the reality that right now in the United States, things are getting more repressive. The state is becoming bolder. People are being taken off the street. You know, not just undocumented people anymore, which was already bad enough, but people with green cards, etc., and so forth. And what's been happening more recently is even people who were born in the United States with a passport are coming into the U.S. from vacation or travel, and they are being stopped, sometimes randomly, sometimes not randomly, and being questioned about their political affiliations, political leanings, things of that nature. So yesterday, I got a text message from my friend, HASAN Piker, who, if you know who he is a very prominent left-wing voice. He's one of the largest streamers on Twitch and certainly the largest left-wing streamer. And he was stopped coming in from France. He was coming into Chicago, and they stopped him for a period of time and questioned him, and ultimately he was fine. But he texted me as he was basically being pulled aside to let me know that that was happening, because I am his lawyer friend. And we did have a conversation after this about maybe in the future some things that will be done differently. But this should worry all of us a lot, because HASAN Piker is a very prominent left-wing voice. He is well known. He has a large following on the internet, and he is a rich person. So he's a person with reach and influence, and even though he was only briefly stopped for a period of time when he was coming back in the United States, the fact was they flagged him. They were specifically...
No, Lolo didn't scold me. He did not. I explained to him exactly why I did what I did as well in that conversation. I literally told him, just as I told you, what the purpose of it was.
Looking for him and asking him specific questions about his activities as a political actor in the United States. They're asking him about political opinions. You have
no idea how what you said could be used against you later. It's not about your example, but they're making you into an example. They're clearly looking for a reason to somehow charge you with material support for terrorism. I know, but you do realize that the things that I said in that room are, one, still protected speech, and two, there's nothing I can do if the fucking federal government wants to make an example out of me, you dumb fuck. What is wrong with you? I know. That's kind of the main point of contention here, don't you think? Yes, I know that already. You think I don't know that? You think I haven't talked to literal fucking journalists and also organizations so far since this conversation took place? I like that chatters in here are like, dude, you shouldn't have done that. It's like, even if I did and they use what I said in that interview against me, that's still a precedent-setting court case. You understand? I'm taking that risk knowing full well what the risks associated with it are. And I'm also telling you not to do that. But I also will not be intimidated. Like that was my point. I like that because of the parasocial nature of Twitch streaming, you could have a fucking fascist government unironically apprehend and detain political dissidents, and chatters in the chat will still be like, well, you should have conducted yourself better. Like, shut up. I know what I'm doing. I knew that I was taking a calculated risk to talk in that situation. This was partially the reason why I made this calculated decision, because I wanted to see what their inquiries were going to look like. I had heard from TikTok stories of American citizens getting apprehended at the border, getting detained at the border. And I had a different red line than some other people do. My red line was unlawful search and seizure. But up until that point, I was going to entertain the inquiry so that I could engage in some sort of fact-finding mission. TikTok is your source of news. No, you fucking moron. I'm the source of news in this situation. That's what I'm saying. I had heard firsthand accounts from people, not just on TikTok, but immigration attorneys being apprehended at the border, for example, on NBC and numerous other news outlets that had verified reports. So when I was in the similar situation, I was the one who was like, okay, I'm going to see what this is about. Anyway, let's continue.
He said in the past, his Twitch ban, some things that were frankly ridiculous, and other things that maybe weren't ridiculous but are scary for an administration to be looking for in terms of what your political beliefs are. Your political beliefs shouldn't matter in terms of you being a United States citizen and you making transit in and out of the United States. Coming from France, mind you, like not coming from somewhere where there's things are unstable on the ground or there are actors that the United States considers to be dangerous, just like coming from a trip to France.
How can you trust things that happen to you? Are an anecdotal experience unreliable? Yes.
So, yeah, I've said this before. You need to be aware. Like, this is the reality right now. The Trump administration is floating the idea and talking, like Stephen Miller is talking about, they want to suspend habeas corpus. Habeas is the ability to challenge a wrongful arrest, you know, so basically the police can't arbitrarily arrest you and not tell you why you're being held or hold you indefinitely. It's a critical function of due process, which is what every American is guaranteed, but also everybody who is on American soil by the Constitution.
Now, the issue here is that the only place where you technically don't have this, or it's technically an illegal gray area, and I think like immigrant rights attorneys will also tell you this, or at least as far as everything that I read, they also will literally tell you that it's like kind of a gray area, is the fucking border. That's the one area where there is definitely a deliberate effort from the Supreme Court and the American reactionary movements that have eroded constitutional protections piece by piece. You're more useful to the movement free and doing this work than in a cell somewhere, bro. We don't have to give them a sacrificial lamb to know it's fascism. I also disagree with you on this. Then why don't I just leave the United States of America and escape and like keep streaming from a different country? This is something that a lot of people are suggesting in a very parasocial way as well. And it's like, no, there are going to be moments where I am presented with a threatening situation, and I think that it is appropriate for me to at least have some fucking skin in the game, especially because I do have a lot of privilege. I will continue to travel internationally, and I will continue to talk about these things, and I'll continue to report on things that happen to me as well. As I've said over and over again, I am not a journalist. I'm a political commentator. I'm not an activist. I'm a political commentator. I'm an entertainer. But there are unique moments in my career where I do engage in some journalism, where I make some news, right? And my personal experience in that regard played a role here.
That's established law. And that has been established law. We know that this administration doesn't care about any of that stuff and doesn't care about what the law is in actuality. All of us collectively need to be smart about how we are articulating certain things online, not to be silent, to be perfectly clear before the do not comply in advance heroes in the comments go absolutely insane. And really, wow, you are such heroes down there. I'm saying let's maybe try not to get black bagged and thrown in federal prison, because actually you're not helpful to anybody if you're there. Okay. It's important to remember that posting is not activism, right? So you have to be smart about what you're doing, how you're doing it, and you have to protect yourself and your communities. You also need to put pressure on your elected officials to actually stand up about these things. Are most electeds not really doing much about it? Things are really bad, but I also think Trump's approval rating is incredibly low. And there are a lot of judges that are pushing back in terms of any of the enforcement things that this administration is trying to do. And we collectively need to pay attention and show up when the law is broken, when people are detained, etc. We need to keep each other and our communities safe because we're the only ones who are going to do it. And you need to be smart and not put stupid things in writing, honestly. Doesn't mean you can't express your political opinion. You should be expressing your political opinion. I just wrote a piece. I've written pieces about Luigi Mangione. I've written pieces about not feeling bad for police officers that got killed. You can still express yourself. You just need to be smart about the way you do that.
You know, there's a lot of commentary, a lot of back and forth happening on this stuff, and there's been a lot of news coverage on it as well. And virtually every single outlet has reached out at this point to get my insight into what took place. But overall, there was, of course, a lot of support from liberals who were terrified of the things that are unfolding. A lot of articles were written about it from, I mean, virtually every single major news article, major news publication wrote about it. Here's the New York Times. On Hassan Piker, popular left-wing streamer, says he was detained at airport. Mr. Piker said he was questioned for 2 hours on topics including the war in Gaza and President Trump. Popular Turkish-American online streamer said he was stopped and questioned for hours about his political beliefs by U.S. Customs and Border Protection after flying back in the United States from overseas on Sunday. Mr. Piker, 33, said in a live broadcast on Monday that he was asked about his job, his beliefs on Gaza and the President Trump, and other topics he discussed on his live stream while being held for 2 hours at an airport in Chicago. Mr. Piker, who was born in the United States, said he was passing through global entry and a U.S. Customs and Border Protection program that eases security checks for travelers deemed to be low risk when an agent asked him to step aside. According to Piker, a U.S. Immigration Customs Enforcement agent led him to an area he described as a detention center where he was taken into a room for questioning. It's very obvious they knew who I was, Mr. Piker said, using an expletive. He has about 4.5 million followers combined on YouTube, Twitch, Trisha McLaughlin, a spokesman for the Department of Homeland Security, said in a statement on social media that Mr. Piker's claims that his political beliefs triggered the inspection are baseless. Upon entering the country, this individual was referred for further inspection, a routine lawful process that occurs daily and can apply for any traveler, she said. Once his inspection was complete, he was promptly released. I found this to be a very funny response, and the reason why I think it's really funny is because, and I tweeted about this already, they admit to it happening. Saying that I'm lying for likes is very funny because they don't even deny that it took place. They simply deny that it was a political targeting. And I think it's important. I think it's important to take note of what the Department of Homeland Security is taking issue with here. What the Department of Homeland Security is taking issue with here is political beliefs being triggered for the inspection, because it shows you what the admin is worried about. Because if they were not worried about anything, they would have just been like, yeah, he's a fucking, he is a figure of notoriety that we pulled a red flag on. Because they openly admit that the detention happened. They openly admit that the investigation took place, but they're worried about the backlash that they might receive given that this is perceived as a political targeting. To which I responded with, by the way, in the NBC article, what part of a lawful routine inspection requires the DHS to question me about my political views, my opinions on Donald Trump, or my stance on Israel and Palestine? The agent was cordial, but the experience, along with reports of other Americans facing similar questioning, seems intended to create a chilling effect on speech. As a taxpayer, I believe CBP agents should be focusing on actual threats like preventing agricultural risks or combating trafficking, not interrogating people about their political beliefs. The reason why this is insane is because you are asking an American citizen who is literally a part of global entry, that is a known traveler to the Department of Homeland Security, an American citizen that was born on U.S. soil, questions about whether or not they have an allegiance to Donald Trump, the current president. None of this will bar you entry into the country. And I don't even think that that was the purpose. I think that the purpose was to create a chilling effect. Mr. Piker described the conversation as really, really interesting and very cordial. He said the agent asked him what he did for work, the topics he talked about in his streams, and whether he discussed the news, including the war in Gaza and President Trump. They straight up tried to get something out of me that I think they could use basically to detain me permanently, Mr. Piker said, using an expletive again. There's no direct connection or direct involvement. He also described the agent who identified himself as Iraqi as very sympathetic, where, okay, they literally took very specific parts of this to make this seem like it was a pleasant experience overall, okay? And they just they omitted parts of this conversation that I definitely maintained was not a pleasant experience. When he asked the agent why he was being detained, Mr. Piker said the agent told him it was routine. He also said he was repeatedly asked about his opinions on whether he was involved with Hamas, the Houthis, an Iranian-backed militant group that controls northern Yemen, and Hezbollah. Throughout the questioning, Mr. Piker said he was transparent in his responses and repeated the same answers, including describing himself as a pacifist who wanted the wars to end. In his broadcast, Mr. Piker said he planned to submit an online inquiry about why he was stopped. There's one citizen who has direct contact with Hamas, and through that, he facilitated the release of Eden Alexander. He's a pro-Trump Palestinian American businessman who arranged the White House-Hamas direct negotiations. Yes, exactly. The Trump administration is in direct contact with Hamas. What are we talking about? The idea that having a direct contact with Hamas or having direct contact with the Houthis or having direct contact with Hezbollah is not allowed in any way, shape, or form is, once again, an erosion of what previous considerations would immediately destroy as far as like a need for detention. We've already dropped that ball completely. It is ridiculous. The fuck do you mean? Have you interviewed Hamas? I haven't, but I would like to in the future. What are you going to do? Fucking arrest me? What are you, crazy? That's insane. Like, that is actually insane, especially because as I mentioned this, like, Jeremy Scahill's interviews with the Ansar Allah movement played a formative role in the Trump administration coming to the table in Oman to cut a ceasefire arrangement with the Houthis. Direct contact with like the Politburo of Hamas is an essential part of the Eden Alexander release that took place. Yeah, and at no point did I say I was treated well, okay? I said the agent was cordial, but the experience overall was designed to create a chilling effect on speech. I have mentioned this before, and I think that a lot of people don't understand this, but you absolutely are allowed right now under the First Amendment protections as a citizen or non-citizen to express support for Hamas. The idea that you cannot do that is ridiculous. You, in the United States of America, as long as you are on U.S. soil, are protected by the First Amendment. The idea that you cannot do that is new. That's new shit. And even then, I personally was managing the risk in my mind and did not take it to that step when I was having a conversation with the ICE guy, okay, with the agent. I don't even know if he's ICE, Customs and Border Patrol, or potentially HSI. A lot of people online just simply don't understand what the First Amendment looks like and what it's supposed to be used for. It's this. This is what it's supposed to be used for. It's a restriction on the government. It's not a restriction on you. The First Amendment is not about private corporations refusing to ban you because you said slurs. It's this. This is literally what it's there for. This is the exact reason for why it exists. It is not a restriction on the citizens. It is a restriction on the government from engaging in displays of power against the citizens. Here is Anna, who is a immigration human rights lawyer, that says, to be clear, Hassan's political speech is unequivocally protected under the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. Also, he's a U.S. citizen. He has a constitutional right to re-enter the country under the 14th Amendment. This should have never happened. And it's so funny because people go, because it didn't happen, lol. And that's the thing that I wanted to get to, is like all of these dumb fuck slop tubers don't know what they're talking about. And I please, if you're coming in here to be like, Hassan, I don't really like you, but I wanted to hear your perspective on this. I wanted to understand what was going on, but I don't really fucking like you. And my favorite content creators don't like you at all. And I've heard a lot of stuff because I've seen a lot of clips of you online. You don't have to listen to me. You don't have to watch me, but please go and like read anything, just anything that's not a Twitter blue check mark reply. Okay, please, because these guys are deluding. These guys are delusional and they are leading you down a wrong path. They are misinforming you. They don't know anything. They don't know what they're talking about. There are a lot of out of touch, delusional, uninformed, apolitical content creators out there, slop tubers in general, or people like Asmongold, or people like Ethan Klein, like people that are just like angry for no discernible reason or angry for whatever their own personal vendetta is. And they just basically fucking delude people into believing wrong things. They push people into believing incorrect things. You don't have to agree with my positions on this, but when I tell you something about First Amendment protected speech, I'm telling you the truth. They're glazing the DHS statement as a progressive community. Yeah, I saw like the 100+ posts that fucking community has made. It's crazy. I mean, they're completely done. They are no longer a progressive community at all. We knew that already, but look at this. The H3 issue production subreddit has now posted about Hassan over 110 times in the last 24 hours alone. Even Hassan's own Reddit page doesn't talk about him this much. Ethan Klein works alongside CBP to get Hassan detained routinely as far as back. People call Chicago Chirac are looked down upon here and is usually used by MAGA. We have a saying here, shut the fuck up about Chicago. Hassan implies that Admin Culture killed himself. Hassan sitting in his daddy's lap. Hassan taking a question at O'Hare Airport by border agents. Hassan community shows that they're racist once again. Homeland Security. They literally posted Homeland Security, nothing but lying for likes. Can you imagine being a supposedly progressive community and looking at the fascist Trump administration's Gestapo agents openly admitting that a detention happened, but then saying that it wasn't political targeting and agreeing with the Department of Homeland Security because of your, not even your own personal convictions about a Twitch streamer that you don't like, but because of your favorite content creator's opinions about a Twitch streamer he doesn't like.